So guys, in this video, I wanted to get your feedback on a couple things that I'm considering. So I'm thinking about doing a live event or a virtual event, going over some of the more advanced tactics in the business, more advanced strategies. And I wanted to get your feedback on, number one, if there's any interest in that, if there would be any interest in me hosting a live event where you come in person, I teach you in person, or if there's no interest in a live event, a virtual event, like a 2 or 3 day virtual event going over all of these more advanced tactics and strategies. So that is why I'm making this video is, okay, number one, gauge interest. And number two, I want your feedback and just your insights and your thoughts. So hopefully that's okay. Hopefully you don't mind. And, that's all good. So as far as like what would be taught in the class, let's cover that real quick, right? Well, what's going to be taught? So this is what we would be going over in the event. Okay. Number one is, okay, how can we overcome these limitations in these certain states, right? How can we overcome limitations in like Texas, for example, these fee limitations? Because if you can learn how to legally work states and overcome the fee limitations, that drops your competition significantly. And that is good, right? Obviously, if you have less competition, you can get more deals, you make more money. That's the bottom line. So that's one thing we would be covering. Second thing, how do we handle these cases where the claimant is deceased? I hear a lot of you guys out there, you're coming across these, and then you find out that when the homeowner is deceased, you just skip over that. Maybe because you don't know what to do, maybe because you believe it's too much work or too much hassle to even deal with it. And I get that, and that's totally cool. That's totally fine. You can make whatever decision you want. I will tell you this though. If you're not doing estate cases, and estate cases where the claimant has passed away, you're leaving a ton of money on the table, like a ton of money. Why? The reason being is lots of foreclosures and tax sales, guys, are caused because somebody passes away and did not have their affairs in order. Okay. And so some of my most profitable deals have been working on behalf of heirs of a deceased homeowner. Now, there's one other caveat though. Sometimes these cases can be expensive because you have to go through what's called a probate. However, in my experience, there are ways to be able to overcome the probate issue, meaning you can file a claim and you can get funds recovered on behalf of heirs without having to open up a probate case. Okay. And these are by law. There are laws that exist for this purpose. So that's another thing that we will talk about in this training is, okay, you find someone that's deceased. How do you, number one, how do you determine who's owed the money? How do you determine who the heirs are? Number two, how do you go about claiming that money without having to go through an expensive probate case? And if you can do that, you've just opened up a whole new book of business for yourself. Okay. Third thing that we would talk about is, okay, how do we turn dead deals into big paydays? And a dead deal is a deal that you look at it and you see in your research, you find out that the liens attached to this property exceed the overage amount or exceed the amount of surplus. That would be a dead lead, right? Because why would you pursue a lead like that if the liens are going to wipe out the surplus? Well, there are actually ways to turn those dead leads into a profit. We just did this recently. We had a case where there was $170,000 lien on a property. And we looked at that and was like, perhaps it's not worth it to go after this case. However, because of some things that we discovered, we were able to turn that dead lead into a $12,000 payday. And so it's a very advanced strategy. It's not something that I would recommend for beginners, but it is good to know about so that you can take those leads that may be dead or that may have liens that exceed the overage, and you can turn them into paydays. Okay. The other thing we would talk about is, okay, how can you get paid if you can't find the claimant? I know this is a big problem for a lot of folks. You've called, you've texted, you've sent mails, and you just can't find the person. You can't get a hold of them. Okay, so how can you submit a claim if you don't have the claimant? Or what if you do contact them and they say, no, we're not interested? Well, how can you still make money on that case? And there are ways to do that. So it's another thing that I would teach you in this training. And then we'll also talk about systems to scale. How to stop doing everything yourself, scale your business, increase your income, increase your free time, get to the point where you're not doing everything yourself, guys. Like I've gotten to a point in my business where I'm not creating lead lists. I'm not doing skip tracing. Rarely do I even jump on the phone anymore, unless it's an inbound call, like they're calling me, I'm not calling them, then I'm not getting on the phone. And that's where I've gotten in my business. So how can you, now that's not where I started, right? And that's not where most people start. We start out doing everything ourselves because that's just kind of something we have to do, especially if we're on a shoestring budget. But then as we excel and grow, then we can start outsourcing things. And what does that look like? How do you find someone good? How do you determine who a good, team member would be, so that you can increase your income, increase your free time, increase the opportunities, and do other things, maybe not necessarily work related, but hanging out with your family. So those are some of the things that we would talk about in this live event or virtual event. And so my feedback for you is there any interest in learning that? Would you like to come out? What would you prefer? Would you prefer in person, where you can ask me questions and get feedback face to face? Or would you just want to do it from the comfort of your own home, and just do it virtually? Obviously, some people prefer live events and in-person formats. If anything, it's an excuse for you to get out of the house and come to Utah and check out the cool mountains we got here. It's an experience, right? Coming to a live event is an experience, and some people like those experiences. If there was a live event, I would be willing to cover your hotel, cover your transportation from the airport to the event site, and possibly even credit you for your flight. I would be willing to do that if you're willing to come, to my neck of the woods. So that's a pro, but obviously the con is it would be expensive. We're talking $4,000 or $5,000 or something like that. Whereas virtual, you don't have to get out of you don't even have to get out of your pajamas. You can just stay at home. It'd be a lot cheaper. And, we do it that way. So let me know in the comments below, guys, what your thoughts are. If, again, there's any interest in learning this, learning some of these more advanced tactics, and what you would prefer as far as whether a live event or a virtual event. And I will say this would not be something big, meaning I would not have a lot of people come. I would want to keep this to 10 to 20 people max. I've found that's kind of the sweet spot for me. I have no desire to have like 100-person event. I just don't. I prefer to keep it small. That's just me. Maybe that's the introvert in me, but it is what it is. So it would be 10 to 20 people. And that's either way, either virtual or in person, I would keep it to 10 to 20 people. So, and yeah, if there's interest, we'll do it. If there's not, then no worries. I just figured I'd put this out there and just see see what you all say. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. Appreciate your feedback below. And yeah, hope all is well, guys. Have a happy Thanksgiving this week. We'll see you in the next one.